Hello, everybody. Welcome to the family card table. How's it going out there? Well, we are going to persist in our back to school series with the odd cards, but I'm really conscious of and keep listening to everything about this new moon energy and the new beginning energy that it brings. And then a lot of times, in a lot of places, schools are starting. So there's definitely something about what are you focusing on, like what does your new beginning look like, and there's questions about what this new moon and some of the astrology can bring to our changing selves. And I'm so excited that more is coming in to help us change, but sometimes understanding more about it can help us recognize how it's not the other person, or it's not because we ate something wrong, it's because things are trying to clear themselves, right? I've been meditating today in the sun and praying about releasing all the lies from my body and filling them with the truth and the blue light of truth, and like just becoming more and more truthful, because I can appreciate how easily the lies and the indoctrination, the way that we've used authority over people and dominance, like there's a lot of things that I don't even agree with that I might be acting from. So my intention for this new moon is to release all the lies, like the little white lies, the distortions and things from my character, because sometimes those lies make it so you've got like blind spots, or smudge on your mirror, if you will, because you continue to see it a way that it isn't. So I've been thinking a lot about the truth and how we can call the truth in if we want to hear and see it as it is, more than being a spell, if you will. So that's what I've been thinking about. How about you guys? What comes up for you around the new moon and all that before we start talking about the odd cards?
Hey, can you hear me?
Hi,
Sorry.
Rob.
Yeah,
Rob's the
sorry.
evolutionary astrologer here at the table, so I was grateful that it was you who popped up. I know that we all have thoughts about it, but it was for sure hoping that you would start telling us what you can tell us about the current astrology and how it might affect our new beginnings of the school year or other things.
Yeah, well, every month there's a new moon, and of course, every month it's a different new moon in the signs. Usually, sometimes we get two in one sign, but you know, a new moon is a time of new beginnings, setting new intentions um, for the next 6 months, um, because in 6 months, on the corresponding full moon, it's a time when some of the things that you're beginning now, or technically this coming Monday, um, looks like September 2nd, the things that you start then, sort of, in intentions and new beginnings, these things will become more in fruition 6 months from now. And 6 months from now is a really good check-in time to see what's working, see what's not, and adjust accordingly. And this new moon is in Virgo, and speaking to back to school stuff, I mean, Virgo is all about um, getting organized. It's about finding and setting intentions for what meaningful work means to you, the type of skills that you're perfecting and training. It's also about determining the right responsibilities for you. You know, what are your what are true right responsibilities for yourself? You know, I always think of Byron Katie. She says there's three types of business out there. There's your business, the collective your, other people's business. There's my business, and there's God or Source's business. And I'm only in charge of one of those, and it really, to me, it really helps simplify. But Virgo, also with this sort of new moon energy, there's something about loving yourself despite um, any self-prescribed imperfections, loving yourself even though you might fall short of, you know, um, perfection in that sort of sense. Um, but really, there's something about finding meaningful work and going step by step and organizing your life to reach those goals. So that's sort of the the major essence of Virgo that sticks out to me.
Nice, Rob. That sounds like a great invitation for all of us, right? To have that kind of possibilities. I always love hearing the interpretations of astrology because oftentimes it really is like, oh, this is an opportunity for you to consider some of this, and there'll be some energy that'll support you to see it maybe more clearly. Like things might start to change. We might start to see systems and things change, you know. What do you think, Gina, about this time?
I think too, with kids going back to school, I mean, mine have been back for a few weeks now, but there's a strong focus on health. When you're looking at Virgo energy too, the sixth house, and taking better care of yourself. Maybe sticking to a better routine. Making sure the kids wash their hands, and just like, again, what are they eating during the day? That's how and Virgo is my sixth house, anyways, in Placidus. So for me, it is very much about the new routines. Like I probably will spend this weekend purging and getting rid of things, and kind of cleaning up different spaces in the house to kind of get more organized, because I think that's a big part of that energy. It's just more organization. It's the very, which I really detest a lot of times, is the Virgo energy, though it's my north node. I'm supposed to be more organized though, but I'm getting there, so um just, and it is like sticking to routines and stuff like that. So even this week, I leading up to this energy, like I've been back in the sauna every day this week because my schedule allowed for it and it felt really good. So I already feel this energy, like, and now that I've gotten back to doing it every day, even though my week will be a little bit different next week, it's gonna make me commit to, because I love the way I feel. I love that I'm sleeping better because of it. It'll make me like make sure my schedule still fits to be able to do that, right? Like having to make, okay, if I got to get up 30 minutes earlier to get some things accomplished before so I can make it to the sauna. Like this whole week of being able to go every day, where I've only been able to go like a day or two here and there, the last few months, I've really enjoyed it. And so I really want to make sure I'm getting back to sticking to that. So for me, it'll be more a lot about the health routines and the commitment and sticking to, and again, making the adjustments and the necessary time to get it done.
Nice. Yeah, definitely this beginning of school year is always like you want to get your new little notebook, organize your schedule, you write it all out, you like start to get new things in gear, and I'm not sure. I mean, I know all the parts of what happened in this world aren't necessarily all bad. I like to think of it as happening for us, but it does create a false sensation of letting go of what you don't need, how the trees drop the leaves, like making room for new learning, harvesting what you got, and then packing it away so that you can go into a more quiet, reflective place. Like, because while you're in school or in these systems, it does really kind of can like contract people to have to stay a little bit more focused than maybe summer's expansion might, so the transition from the expansion of summer to the focus and learning and the letting go that comes in the fall, I think it's something we all feel. I've been listening to stuff about archetypes and talking about how the seasons originated and how that's something that I don't know. Even this is the way my brain goes. I'm like, did we make up the seasons? Did we create this because of the way we think about it? Do you know what I mean? Like, how does seasons become such a big part of how we see ourselves and understand ourselves? And anyways, I was listening to archetypes and they were talking about how certain things were seemingly considered to be the stories that tell us how the season started, with the whole Persephone leaving Hades and Demeter and stuff, and the mother wanting her to come back, and then it becoming a seasonal way that she grew. So I'm just always so curious at this point because I just think when I let go of lies, like I said, there's some pretty big lies that we're all going to be a little bit surprised about. I don't know how it's all going to come through, if it's going to be a slow trickle or what, but I've been sensing, and I know many of you do too, that some of what we've been doing, we're missing some pieces of the puzzle. So I'm curious what happened. But good health is always good for us, and good schedules that make us be our nicest version. That's the best too. So I agree with that.
Plus the seasons dictate the school calendar,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Yep.
In fact, being the queen of club, I'm all about organization and planning, and so obviously, like I having over 30 years teaching experience, I've had so many new beginnings at this time of the year. It's just embedded in me. I'm like conditioned to get kind of like excited at this time of the year. Like I literally go through, this has been happening to me like the last couple of weeks. Like I go through the grocery store, and of course, right in the front, they have all their new school supplies, and I just have to wander through it. Like, do I need any? No. Did I buy some? Yes. Just 'cause I'm like, ooh, those are a cool set of new markers. Those
Mm-hmm.
are going to get those. And look at those colored pens. I could use those colored pens in with my, my new calendar that I bought a few months ago. So, it's just I just get really excited for particularly this week. So this new moon is right in line with how I'm feeling for sure.
Nice. Yeah, I definitely think it comes like it comes, and the buying stuff, the consuming stuff, the producing and doing. Like a lot of the themes of some of the closer hearts that I've been getting to connect to, I've a lot of people just had their birthday. I have know so many of those King of Hearts. I think I know like 6 of the King of Hearts that just had their birthdays, and I've been chatting with all of them. And so much of what I'm hearing is that slowing down and considering why we're doing what we're doing and how much of the clarity that may be ours innately we lose because of the pace we live. Like every one of them said it in a different way. Like I said, ironically, I only talked to 4 of the 6, but I have a lot of King of Hearts people. So yeah, it was interesting to me. So when you get ready for this stuff, it also grows your insecurities. Like, what's it going to look like? How am I going to look? Like, I think going back to school is when like people get really like a lot of nervousness too. Do you know what I mean? Like, because you are going to change. It's meant to be a change. Like, you think about your school pictures sometimes and the way you looked in 3rd grade and 5th grade, you're like, boy, I've changed. Like it's like you see yourself change. So yeah, it's interesting to consider what the proper pace for change is, but for sure know that we're going to change and we will change and we are changing, and that's a for sure.
Yeah, my oldest, she's at college and she FaceTimes me, and they just started practice this week, so they haven't really been doing any kind of like organized practice up until Monday, and then the first day, I miss high school. They were right. College is definitely harder. We got to do these stadiums up and down, up and down, up and down, up and down, back, up and down, up and down, up and down, and back. And then today, I guess yesterday, the practice consisted of like playing each other. And she is the only freshman on the team, right? And so now she's in a new school. She's the freshman. She's the only freshman on the team, and she dropped 16 on them, and it kind of like put her, she's like, I think I stepped on some toes, and I said, but don't shorten yourself either, though. You go do what you do best. And but at the same time, a lot of these girls are older, seniors, juniors, so these kids are like 22, 23, and then there's my baby, 18. And she's like, Mom, I'm the youngest. And I was like, I understand. She's like, I can't go do the things that they do. I said, that's not a bad thing. But, just a new set, and she even said, Mom, I was real nervous this week. And I said, why? She goes, well, I'm the freshman, I'm new. And I said, but rightfully so. It's a brand new team, a brand new coach, a brand new, environment. But I think once you kind of you've gotten the practice, a week of practice in, you kind of got the schedule of how it's going to be. I mean, she's up at 5. They're doing, gym in the morning, weights class, practice. So her day is booked. And she felt like, you know, the coach and her, like she feels more confident now after this week than she did in the beginning, because one, you know, she was making shots, taking shots. She's actually, when I FaceTimed her earlier, she was in the gym getting up shots. She's like, nobody else is doing that. I said, keep doing it. I go, that's what sets you apart. You know what I mean? That's why you drop 16 on these girls of 6'5", 6'3", 6'2", you know, and even though she's not one that's supposed to be the shooter, if you will. I'm so bad with the positions in basketball. She'll kill me. But it just shows her dedication and her commitment. And sometimes those nerves, which is very Virgo to me, is the nerves. And kind of building up for this new moon is, you know, talking to her today. I hope that her nerves are settled a little bit more, because she's just getting more comfortable and more confident that she went out and showed out with these girls that, you know, have been balling for longer than she has. And she can hold her ground. And so now her nerves are kind of lessening, and I know her big old confidence will boost real soon. So it's kind of good for, you know, but it lines up with the energy of just the nerves, the new place, getting into the routine. Very Virgo.
Yeah, and I mean, and an ace is an odd number too, and that's a changer, right? And it's the ability to focus your energy because it's just you, you know. So it might be, excuse me, it might be a good time to start to transition to odd cards and their ability to approach the transition, because even in odd cards, just like the core cards, will probably come into it with a little bit of a different stance. I do not live in an odd card world. I don't have a large experience of the odd cards, but we have odd card friends here, and we have people that can tell us about it. And I certainly might have a share, but I'm going to pass the ball to you there, Donna, and see where it goes. And I'll happily, as it, you know, summates itself, share what I've experienced small in the 3, 5, 7, 9 crew. But I'd love to hear from you.
Yeah, thanks. So I'm the parent of an odd card child who's now an adult. So I went through all the school years with my 5 of heart child. So I understand that odd card energy from a parent perspective. But of course, with over 30 years of teaching experience, I've been around a lot of odd card children. I love their energy. Absolutely love the odd card energy. I have a lot of friends with odd cards too. I guess it kind of helps me get outside of myself a little bit more. But to me, odd cards are the energy is more of like a departure from the stability or the balance, the seeking of newness and adventure, and having a 5 of hearts sun. I mean, that's all about seeking new adventures, particularly on an emotional level. And what I have found in my years of teaching is that the odd card children really need a lot of flexibility in teaching and in the classroom. So like flexible seating choices, changes in movement and activities. This is not a child that does really well with sitting and listening to a lecture for an hour at a time. They also need, particularly if they're a club card, you need a lot of breaks. And in education, we call those brain breaks. And so if teachers want to meet the needs of their odd card children, I would highly recommend that they use brain breaks frequently. Brain breaks are just where you kind of ask the kids, you know, are we needing a break? And they give you like some kind of maybe a thumbs up response. And you take a break by just doing some kind of little fun activity. It could even just be standing up and doing jumping jacks. There's a really popular website called GoNoodle. It's gonoodle.com. And there's thousands of pre-made brain breaks that teachers can use. And you can, as a parent, you can even use them at home. And I would recommend doing that for your child if they're having to do like hours and hours of homework one night to give them that break time. It's really important for them. Also, it's important for odd card children to have choices in not only the process of their learning, but also in the product of their learning. In education, we talk about like experiential hands-on learning. So that would be more like the process of learning. They need to do the hands-on work, practice. That's real important for them. And then the product would be like the assessment. So rather than just like always giving the test at the end to see what your odd card child has learned, give them something more creative, give them a product. Remember last week, Gina was talking about for herself a product activity that I think it was like a commercial you had to do or something like that. And
soap opera.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Create a whole soap opera. Yeah.
Right. So to do something like that, where instead of a test, the kids show what they know in a more creative way. So like a young child, if they're reading a book, they could be tasked with creating a bookmark that is maybe artistically showing the theme of the book. For an older kid, maybe in math, to be a little more creative, because math can sometimes be a little dry. Maybe task them with learning vocabulary and creating a crossword puzzle to show their understanding of the vocabulary. So things like that. And then since you were talking, Gina, about your oldest being that ace of spade, one thing that I learned in teaching aces over the years is that one energy can be somewhat impulsive, particularly at a young age. So those were always my kids that were blurting. So they didn't raise their hand and wait to be called upon. They just blurted out a question, and teachers need to be really cognizant that that's just how they're wired. They don't mean to be disrespectful. It's just how they are inside, and then how they're expressing themselves externally. Particularly that ace of
great point. That's a really fair point, and it happens all the time where someone, how dare you talk? It's like, that's how that person talks. It has something to do with you.
Right, exactly. Like I have certain, based on my card, like I really have to process like verbally, particularly being a Gemini to construct understanding. And sometimes that's what the aces will do. They'll just ask what comes to their mind that they're curious about. And why as a teacher, would you want to squash that curiosity, right? So I think teaching odd card children, you have to be really aware of that outward expression that they're prone to and accommodate it.
Yeah, and I think too with the ace energy, it's like they want to be first. They want to answer. They know the answer, so they're going to be the first one. They skip the whole hand raising and just give you the answer. So I think that's a big part of their energy as well.
Right. And it's interesting to me too that energy can be viewed as like an asset or a deficit. Mm-hmm. So I think it's the teacher's job or the parent's job to make sure that they keep that kind of energy, but just kind of encourage more of the asset that's connected to it.
Yeah, I've always encouraged, prior to knowing the cards, when, them being younger, like with my older one, when she was younger, I worked in the restaurant industry. So she spent a lot of time in some really nice restaurants, and I would always make her order her, like, you need to ask for you, look at the server, speak. Because they're shy, as outgoing as she was. When they're around straight, they're not going to really talk too much. But I would definitely implement, like, speak up, ask, So I was big on that. And even, like, if we were go to the grocery store and they wanted the cookie or they wanted something from the deli, you have to speak. You have to say it, speak it, ask what you want. So I've been really big on that. With them both, to be able to, don't be afraid to speak.
Well, they're the best brainstormers.
Yeah.
Those were the kids, the aces that I could count on to put in a small group and say, okay, brainstorm that, to come up with just amazing ideas. Like, they're so good at just that.
Yeah.
Aha kind of ideas. In fact, I was on TikTok the other day, and do you know who the comedian Matt Rife is?
Mm-hmm.
Like, so he came up, and I was listening to something he was saying. He's just so freaking funny. So I looked up his card, and he's an ace of diamond.
Ah.
And it's so amazing to me how many comedians are ace of diamonds.
Mm.
Tina Fey, like Ellen DeGeneres, I think. Like, there's just like so many, because they're just so good at that. Like,
they're quick.
In the moment, funny, which Matt Rife is. Like, he can just take what people are talking about in the audience and just feed off of it and come up with this amazing idea. And that's what my ACE students did. It's like, in the moment, they could come up and be inventive. It's just, it's such a cool thing to watch.
Yeah, I could see that, definitely, because they're quick with it. You know, they got an answer like that.
I definitely was like that too. I definitely, my Ace of Diamonds energy or some part, but I really enjoyed jumping out and being silly. That's the other thing the King of Hearts crew has been hitting up for. They're like, yo, where's Carol Burnett? Like, you're not being funny enough. Like, you're kind of boring. So they're probably right. So how about the 3? What do you think the 3 is like in the classroom?
Oh, they're so creative. And they're my social butterflies.
I was going to say, they probably don't sit in the same, they probably bounce from chair to chair, to person, and I would want to drug them. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah, well, I did mention the flexible seating. And that would be definitely something to give like a 3 card. Or, you know, and if they're, you know, needing like the fidget bands, like on their chairs or something, that could be a 3 kind of an energy too.
They're the ones that on the paper, they've drawn a whole picture, right? You know, they're doodling as you're teaching and talk. Their notebook isn't even their notes. It's all just doodles, scratch, you know, probably even works of art.
Exactly. Oh, completely. But they're also the ones who aren't afraid to like work with different people in a group. So if you're doing group projects, they can kind of be seen as like the glue of being able to get along with different people with that 3 energy. So I love that aspect of their personalities as well. Just the creativity of that card is just off the charts.
And they probably wouldn't let anybody work by, like, if they saw someone by themselves, they probably want to include them. I could see that. You know what I mean? Like, because they're very good about, hey, you come here. Hey, you come here.
Very inclusive. Very inclusive.
Yeah.
Very much so. And like, I always describe like the 3 energy as like diversity is the spice of life to them. You know? And so they're not only helping other people by inviting them, but they love the energy of understanding different people and being around difference and variety.
Yeah, I can see that for sure. But I also could see that the lower side of that energy is the, you know, worrying. Did I pass? Did I get this right? Like, I can see the stress level of them. Like I said, needing the fidget, needing the constant stimulation, because I feel like they're constantly on like edge, if you will, you know, or always looking, you know, for something else to do. They may be the kids that you're like, oh my God, like they have, you know, unfortunately, maybe the ones that get labeled with, you know, disorders, it's just they need an outlet, you know, they just need a way to express that energy. And because unfortunately this school system is like, here, sit down and don't move and read. And you know, I do appreciate the school that my kids have gone through from elementary to middle school, being that it is very much like they're outside. They're not like stuck to a seat. It's very, they do creative. It's called CP. It's creative productivity. Every like 6 weeks they change. They're doing different. It's so cool. Like it really doesn't keep them to just a seat. And I think that's hard for kids, and so if they don't have an outlet, now are labeled as disruptive, or unable to sit still, and unfortunately they get boxed into that. And now and it's unfortunate, because if we would know, oh, there are 3, okay, they need that outlet, they just need to have a way to express that energy.
Mm-hmm. I agree. That's why those brain breaks are like,
Yeah.
particularly for those 3 cards. Otherwise, as you mentioned, Gina, like if that expression isn't happening, it stays inside. Like I think of like a 3 of club, where like the ideas, the creativity is so contained that eventually it's going to be like a pressure cooker.
Mm-hmm.
And so to be able to, do some kind of activity to get it out is really imperative for them. So what about 5s? We've got Rob, who's a 5. Rob, do you want to talk about like young Rob, like Rob?
Baby Rob.
Oh boy. Well, just real quick on the 3s, to me that, that 3 energy, it's similar to the Gemini energy, of course. And the idea of, how do you use the mind at its most optimal and highest octave? And because the mind is the source of all of our suffering, from my perspective. Obviously kind of a deep conversation there, but we create so much suffering for ourselves. And with the 3, of course, with 3s, some are, they're here to learn to master the art of the mind, and how to use that tool in the highest, for the highest good, and that the whole theme of like questions being more important than answers, I think is a real 3 thing. It's there's always more questions, there's always more to learn, there's always, that idea of embracing the beginner's mind, that there's always more to learn. And the wisest person in the room is the one that knows they're a total beginner, because there's just so much, to know, to learn. But in terms of the 5s, it's a good question. And I the importance of some level of freedom in school, some level of flexibility and choice. And you had talked about that earlier, Donna. I think that's pretty important. 5s need freedom, they need space, they need change. It's hard to just sit still in one thing. The number of topics, and to be able to taste a lot of things, for me, and I again, the way I look at it is that your birthday is no coincidence. Your card is no coincidence. There's an intention and a reason that you have that for this lifetime. And with the 5s, it's about change, embracing change, learning through the change, and that sort of energy of, fitting as much as you can into into one lifetime. But and so for me as a 5, I didn't get into what I now do in it as a career until way later in life, and it was out of the box. It wasn't, I know that's not going to be true for all 5s, but the idea of having change, embracing travel, embracing a lot of different types of school experiences and work experiences, I think are really, really paramount and important.
So there's a really unique school in Portland, Oregon, where I live, called Forest School. It's basically like outdoor school on steroids. Like because it's outdoor school all year long. And the kids are encouraged to be outside no matter the weather. And so they have a lot of adventures. They have a lot of, obviously, space and variety in where they are and where they're working. And I always looked at that school as being something that would just be so perfect for a 5. I didn't know about it until after my son was like past that age, but I think he would have loved something like that. As it was, like, I did struggle to get him to read. He was like not interested. Like, I'm going outside. Like, I'm gonna go ride my bike. Like, didn't want to sit and read until I finally found that that series of books called Choose Your Own Adventures, where they read it and then they choose the ending. Like, he loved that. So, I mean, that was a game changer because then he started to read even more.
That was a huge favorite for me too.
Wow.
Choose Your Own Adventure. I thought it is for everybody though, but that's a really good point. And you know, the other thing is like taking in. So I was a good student sort of thing, and there's different areas where it was aligning and working for me. But the importance of taking in a lot of different subjects to find what it is you truly love. Because my guess is there's a lot of 5s out there that maybe they stuck with something, but then they're not 5ing in the work area because there's, you know, maybe they haven't let themselves explore other vast different topics that they have more interest in. So I think that's, you know, every card has its like pitfalls. And I think with a 5 is perhaps not exploring enough or whatever it is to find what really, really, really fits, you know. But the Choose Your Own Adventure is perfect. Yeah.
Yeah. So one of the things I'm hearing you say, Rob, is that as a parent, it's a really good idea if you have a 5 to let them explore lots and lots of different activities. Because I know, like, some parents are like, oh, well, my kid wanted to play saxophone and then he changed his mind and then he wanted to play the violin. And I'm not going to I'm not going to let them make that change because then they're going to change. Let them. That's what I say. If they're a 5, let them have as many experiences as they can, and they'll eventually settle on something that they're passionate about.
Yeah.
Even with my ace daughter, it was this, and it was this, and it was this. Like, she played from a 3rd grade. She was playing flag football. She was the only girl on the team. Then flag football to volleyball, and then volleyball to basketball, and basketball stuck. You know, even did dance at a younger age. So, and I think sometimes, and you can't expect a child to be like, this is the one, this is it, this is my thing. You know what I mean? Like, I like this one day and then next day I might not like it. I'm like that with food. So, like, you know what I mean? And so I think that's why, but obviously in means of reason, because not everybody can afford a violin, a saxophone, a piano, and then a guitar because you keep changing your damn mind either. You know what I mean? So maybe learn how to write music, right? And then you get, you know, so, but I do think that variety is a key thing for those energies, the 3s, the 5s specifically, and even the Jacks. You know, we like to change things up, so having different options is always a good thing.
I like the 5ing, Rob. You know, I grabbed on that. So, but I love it because you're like, it's true. If you're like a more fixed card or have like a different kind of practicality brain or whatever, you're thinking, will you stop mixing it up all the time? And meanwhile, they want to make their own endings. They're here for change. They love change. Like, it's part of what makes things move, you know? And I know was not my like easiest classrooms, really accepting change. You know, I'm sure my feet are in the ground in places still I'm trying to grab them out of because comfort's king at some levels, right? So I think there's a real strength to what would the story be like if I did this, if I did that. You know, Felix came home today. He's a 9, but we'll get to there after the 7. But he had all sorts of ideas about how to make things happen. So he's always in this like moving to the next thing kind of way. Like maybe not as much as a 5 or a 7, but definitely wanting to kind of add himself to what's going on. Is it 9 diamonds? But yeah, so what do we think about the 7s? I think they like to be helpful and sweet. Like I know a good amount of 7s, I can imagine that in a classroom and in the ones that I've worked with in different things, like they're looking to be in a good relationship, connect. They're just often plagued by their own insecurities. Like they don't always flow with it as well as somebody else. Like they get jammed up and give themselves a lot of grief.
Yeah, the 7s, particularly the 7 of clubs and 7 of spades that I had, always tended to struggle with the negative self-talk. Those were some common kinds of characteristics that I saw in those kids. And so like in education, you can give like a negative comment to encourage behavior. You can give a positive reinforcement. So you could say like, Johnny, you're not raising your hand. And in my class, you raise your hand before speaking. But for a 7, it's better to say, thank you, Sally, for raising your hand. And then Johnny's listening to that and hearing, encouragement that way.
Praise. So, right.
Yeah. So putting things in a positive way instead of always the negative is really important for those 7s because they can really get tweaked by it. They're really sensitive. No matter the suit, they're highly sensitive.
Yeah, I totally agree. That's my experience as well. But also very helpful in there for everybody. But like I said, giving themselves a harder time than anyone else. So it's like how and where you say things. I find I've been learning the cards of the ones that I'm working with, and I've been using some of this awareness of myself. Like, oh, if I say it like that, she's going to hear it like that. Even though I'm just saying it, we need to say it in a way that she can actually hear me and not make it as another reason to diss herself and stuff, right? Nice. So let's do the card pull.
Well, should we talk about the 9s for a little bit and then we can do the card pull?
I was just figuring we were going to get one, but okay, let's talk about the 9s.
Maybe we will.
Maybe we will, maybe we won't. I don't know. So yeah, I
bet you they'd be late to class, huh? The 9s were probably late. Because they got no concept of time whatsoever. Because they were like, woo, oh. I guarantee you they're late to class. Yep, that would be my insight. Because I got 2 9s. I'm late to everyone's like, you're going to be late to your own funeral. Your own funeral. I probably will be.
Right. Well, I'll tell you, the 9 of clubs, I consider to be like one of the smartest cards in the deck, though. Like their ability to absorb knowledge is like off the charts because the 9 energy is all about giving in a universal way. But in order to do that as a child, you've got to absorb whatever it is that you're going to universally share. And for the club, that's knowledge. So they were just sponges in the classroom. That was my experience with the 9 of club. And then the hearts are interesting too, because they're really the counselors, they're the compassionate kids. They're really more interested in relational dynamics and developing interpersonal skills than they were really in academics. So if you're a parent of a 9 of heart and they're not, making the straight A's, just remember that they're making straight A's in what matters to them and what they're meant to do in life.
That's a great way to say it, Donna. I love that.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. You need all those people, different types of people, like the ones that are those innate counselors. They help the room feel safe to the other ones, and everybody knows who that person is too, right?
Yeah. It's all about authenticity and accepting our children for who they are.
Agreed.
Okay.
That's why I want you to learn who they are. So as Donna gets the cards ready, the Family Card Table. It's a website. It tells you more about your card and the others in your family. And it's geared to support you in the idea of like, how do we all work together better and what's our energies able to create when we have the kind of attunement and awareness to each person's nature. And I'll pass it to you, Donna.
Okay, so in this segment of our show, we do the family card pull. So I am shuffling a deck of cards and inviting the wisdom of the cards to reveal what we want to learn. And I'm going to be pulling 3 cards. I'm going to use one deck to pull 2 cards representing the parents. So one will be the mother, the second one will be the father. And then I'm going to use a different deck to pull a card for the child. And I'm going to be using a deck that I just bought called Awesome Cards. They're actually cards that were designed by children in my local children's hospital. So they're very childlike types of drawings. And I only pulled the odd cards in that deck. So I'm going to shuffle that deck as well. All right, so let's start with the mom and then the dad. Ooh, we got 2 odd cards. So the mom is a 5 of club. Funny that we have odd cards.
That's awesome.
I know. How did that happen?
Didn't you take all the odd cards out?
Not in the regular deck.
Oh,
I didn't.
okay.
I just got 2 odd cards.
Oh, wow.
So then the 7 of spades, that showed up last week too, for the dad. And then let me do the 9 of spade as the child.
Here's that 9. Wow, 5, 7, 9.
Yeah. Woo. Okay. My. So the first thing that I want to talk about is that that 5 of club as the mom. So I have a really good friend who she's just a great mom as a 5 of club because she understands the fact that she likes a lot of change and movement and activities. And so she provides like all of that for her daughter. Extracurricular activities, takes her to, I mean, that child has been to so many museums. The 5 club is very much an inquiring mind, a mind of curiosity, of scientific research. And so that mom would be very supportive of any curiosity, academic interests of their child. Now, on the flip side, though, because they're so like investigative minded, they can be like interrogators too. So when the child is a teenager, that might come across as being the nosy person, the nosy parent, like interrogating, where are you going tonight? Are you going to wear that? Are you like that kind of energy? So, and that 9 of spade is a real old soul. So there might be a little bit of, power struggles there in the teen years.
Yeah, they would definitely come as a teacher to those 2. I mean, I think all kids come as teachers, but a 9 of spades coming to that set would for sure be like, okay, guys, I got some things I came in with that I want to talk to you about. And they'd have to be able to dialogue and not control, because the 5 does have to learn not to control. I have several 5 of clubs that I know that are mothers. I forgot about that, but yeah, I do know several of those mothers. And they really have a hard time because they want to keep it moving. And some kids aren't those kind of movers. And a 9 of spades, I experience them to be pretty soulful, like pretty spiritual, like even when they're little.
Oh, yeah. Very introspective.
Yeah, very quiet in themselves, too. Kind of almost private-y.
Yeah, very, very much kind of like an ace can be. An ace of spade can be a little private. They can be like
very
that,
selective, too. Very selective about who's around them, too.
Yeah.
Not so much like the 9 of hearts counseling everybody. Like, I'm sure it's in there, but I think they hold themselves a little bit more reverent. and connection. Maybe we'll see. It depends on the character, right? When they're born, all that stuff is part of it too.
Yeah.
Well, no, the March is only the March one, right? So the 9 of Spades is only in March. So you're going to be a Pisces?
No, they're January, February, March.
Yeah.
Okay.
There's 3 of them.
There's 3 of them.
So you'd only be Capricorn and
Aquarius.
Aquarius.
They're all into healthcare. You know, it's one of the death cards. And I find it interesting that the 9 of Spade adults that I know are involved in healthcare in some way.
Yeah.
One's a hospice worker.
Yeah, hospice is a big thing for the 9 of Spades. I've seen that too. Yeah, for sure. And then I think about the father, the 7 of Spades and the 9 of Spades son. And of course, it's always going to be about who the 5 of Clubs and the 7 of Spades are together. That's going to set a tone. But the relationship between the father and son in that way, and if there'll be a spiritual content in that relationship or not.
Which I think would be good, because I think being so introspective, the 9 of Spade child could like be inquisitive about like some dark things, like even asking questions about death. And, you know, depending on the adult, you know, they might get a little alarmed by that. But the 7 of Spade dad, I think, would be receptive to it and would understand that it's just coming from a place of curiosity.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I'm gonna do I didn't do the composites, but on my.
Ooh, yeah. Let's do the composite for sure.
I'm curious. So the mom and the child first, I was thinking about doing. Oh no, the father and the mother. That's a better one.
Yeah, and that 5 of club mom too. Another thing that I noticed about that card is that they're such verbal processors. They talk a lot. They're so talkative. And that 9 of Spade child needs to be respected for needing some quiet downtime.
That 9 of Spades is their Pluto card.
Ah, right.
Ah, nice. That makes sense too. A lot of times you'll see your kids in your spread. That is so true. So the parents are 2 of Hearts together, which is a great spot. Do you know what I mean? Like that's a good one. So at 2 of Hearts is at least you're starting with a love story and you're both wanting a love story and you're growing in that possibility. But it can be tender and you don't want to give yourself up in it, right? You want to make sure that everybody comes out clean and true. And then the son and the mother, that's an Ace of Clubs. So that would be interesting because there'd be that Ace of Clubs, leave me alone. And then there'd be that two of Hearts, like, all right, come here. You know, there'd probably be a little bit of that, right?
Yeah, and well, because 9 of Spades needs independent, like they like to be by themselves a lot too. So that would kind of make a lot of sense, is giving that child the space, because they will withdraw. My aunt's a 9 of Spades. She moved to BFE. And like, but that's what she wanted. She wanted to be away. Like, she likes privacy. She does not want people around her. She enjoys her space, you know. Very interesting energy. She was always the cool aunt growing up. She lived near us when I was younger, and I always looked at her as the cool aunt. Now I realize she was my Venus card too. But then when she moved, it was like, I mean, you need like 3 planes to get to her. And it's like, you know, so that distance is a big, big thing for them.
Yeah, they're very independent and they're very progressive, original thinkers too. So the way I look at that is that they need that quiet time in that space, because that's where they're doing the work.
Yeah. Yep.
And then the father and son's combination card would be the 6 of Diamonds, which is also very interesting.
Ooh.
Like, and their whole composite as a family, if there's just a 3, would be the 8 of Hearts. So, boy, that's a great like primed group for alchemy in that set, right? So, yeah. And the other one we did it was a 2 of Hearts. That's interesting. Yeah. Because, I mean, each relationship has nuances in it of what it is you can kind of clarify. So the mirror of the father and the son and the 7 and the 9 would bring their values to their self and what's important and how to make the boundaries that you need to feel safety that you feel you need to grow yourself, right? To grow your seed. Interesting. Nice. Rob, any thoughts about it?
And there's also always a spiritual underpinning in the values of a spade card. So on that level, the dad and the son would kind of understand that about each other.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Any other reflections about the head, Rob? Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, hearing that Eight of Hearts composite for the three of them, you know, when I see the Eight of Hearts sort of composite, or just even as the birth chart card, there's a big theme for me related to returning to authenticity and, you know, the call of the inner self and bringing that true self into the world. And with that as a composite energy amongst these three people, it seems that, you know, the game is about authenticity and being who and what you are. And with all those odd cards, I mean, each one would know a little bit about that in terms of honoring yourself despite the pressures of conformity from society, and, you know, the need to adjust with change and to keep growing and things like that. So it's a really interesting dynamic between those three.
Yeah.
I also see like a bit of like loyalty with that energy too.
The Eight of Hearts.
Yeah.
Yeah, and they have three even cards that are their composites, right? So even though they're all living in an odd card experience, their composite, the energy that they're trying to co-create for the sweet spots to interact and grow great, that's going to be an even number. So, yeah, I mean, this is just us putting together cards and ideas, but this is happening in your families, right? That's what we're trying to say. Like, these are ideas to consider on how it's working out in your family and how things are taking. Or working through our dynamics with each other. Yeah. Very funny. Very interesting. Nice. I wonder about the patterns too. Like, cause I mean, this even in hearing like your composite would be a two of hearts, like, or even putting together cards, like what kind of relationships do I want? Like, you know, I wonder how far people could go with this. I mean, I didn't know about this when I was picking a partner, so it didn't occur to me, but I can see how if you're like trying to create certain experiences, you kind of get a sense of what the terrain's going to be like when you see their card and the composite. Do you guys agree?
Yeah, I always look at the composite. I think that's so important to understand, like especially if the composite card is in your spread or their spread. And I like, you know, it's actually, now that I think about it, I swear like it feels like it ends up being the Mercury card. Hence why it's always a lot of talking. Anyway, sorry, my mind just went off on a little tangent, but I always look at the composite card because I find it very fascinating to see what you and another person, and then I don't just stop at the birth card because you want to look at the whole spread of that card too. And like, then again, are you in that spread? Are they in that spread? What is that card to you? I think it can give you so much insight. It's just like kind of looking at the, you know, synastry and composites of your astrological charts as well.
Yeah, that makes sense. It's a lot like synastry. Do you agree with that, Rob?
Yeah, for sure. You know, the way I see those composite cards is the same with the composite chart and astrology. You take the color blue and you take the color yellow, you put them together, you get green. It's a different energetic signature, and it's quite literally that process of alchemy. And yeah, it's a really helpful guideline to really kind of get to know the deeper elements in the relationship, and that from my perspective always do show up, although of course sometimes it takes a bit of time, you know, if it's not family members, if it's friends and things like that. These themes do arise over time for sure.
I was thinking about, I was attempting to navigate the StreamYard game board here to look at our website, because I know in the website we talk about these composite cards. We talk about your planetary ruling card and this family ideas and stuff. So this is just really letting you know that there's so much more to consider if you want to consider like getting over the being entertained by what somebody said at work or what they said on TV or what somebody, is doing with somebody else in the political arena. Taking the time to say, what's up with me and my family, and like, how are we working, and what's going on, and what are our relationships like? You know what I mean? Because that's really the beginning of the awareness that we have any control over. Everything else is just ways that we distract and entertain ourselves. And self-awareness is the key to finding out. Because that comment Rob made before about the mind creates the suffering, like that lie thing I talked about today in the early part of this, it's like we can make up stuff and believe it. Like, that's not just a funny thing to say. Like, that's a real thing. We can make up stuff and believe it and keep believing it to the point that we're doing something that isn't even our highest truth. And our mind made a decision and it's holding us. Right? So the expansion of your mind, just the acknowledgement that our mind might actually be designed to work more integrated with the mind and the body and the heart, and the soul, because letting it become like, well, now I can do this, I can let myself do this, now I can go do this, like, it doesn't get to have its full capability of helping us align to like our crown chakra and listening to what we know from our higher place, because we can get so judgy about ourselves and others where we're not taking the time to say, well, what's up with me? What's the song I'm singing to the part of me that wants to grow? What are the things I think about every day? How am I communicating to people? Where am I judging and turning somebody off because just when they talk, it annoys me? Like, what's my awareness? So I really hope that people recognize that's what this is about. And we're trying to say that your teachers that are out there, those kids will come in and they'll be their own baby triggers, right? They'll be their own like glimmers, we've been calling them, instead of triggers. Like, they'll give you a glimmer to a part of you that's not as shiny as you'd like it to be, right? Because if they can annoy you, then more than likely there's something on there that you put there, right? Because the mind will do that. So very nice, very nice. Anything else for the reading?
I want to put out there that I'm going to be offering a back to school special. So I'm going to be offering 50% off my child's personality report.
Nice.
So it will be $9.95 instead of $19.95. Basically, it's about like 5 pages long. It's very comprehensive description of your child's personality traits, strengths, weaknesses, and then I offer parenting tips to nurture the strengths and then how to manage the weaknesses. And if your child is school age, it also offers like what educational strategies work best for them. So it's a good value, and you can get it at thefamilycardtable.com. If you go there and you purchase, it'll direct you to to my website, and you need to use a coupon code. And the coupon code is SCHOOL24, all capital letters school. But you have to go to thefamilycardtable.com and check it out.
Thanks, Donna. Thanks for offering that. Or if you know somebody who's got kids going back to school and you see them running around hairy scary, that'd be a great thing to read while you're waiting for the bus one day. Get a sense of how you want to say hello and what you want to say when they leave. Because I remember somebody identifying in some research that ran through the Hands and Heart was the 3 times a day that make such an impact on our children is when they leave in the morning, when they come home from school, and when they go to bed. Right? So those are really important times to know where you're at.
Yeah.
Right.
Definitely.
Be centered. Be centered in those spaces. It gives them a real sense of grounding. And you too. Right? Wonderful. Thanks, Donna. Well, I appreciate that offer. Thank you. I hope people take us up on it. We'll put that code in the description. School, all capital letters, 24. Donna's doing half price on the parent-child report that helps you understand a little bit more about what might be coming up in your dynamics and what your child's basic nature might be, or at least the energy that they're wearing on their soul seed. Nice. Wonderful. So do we have anything else to wrap up with? Any new moon intentions? What do you think?
I'm gonna purge.
You're gonna purge. Okay,
I
so
feel the
let
need.
go, let go.
I've already like scoped the house, and I'm like, all right, that corner, like I like Virgo moon because of that reason. There is this essence of wanting things to kind of be more organized, more clean, more in its place. So I can appreciate that, and with it being a holiday weekend, and taking advantage of that extra day of being able to kind of get through some of the closet, and I have an extra room now, so it's like basically pulling all the crap and putting it in there. That's what it really is becoming.
Nice. Well, I think the theme I'm hearing is that authentic self. I know Donna's title has that. I know all of us have that value that we recognize, that to be authentic, and that's why it's so great that you're all so genuine. That's what makes this a nice place. I think the intention is around that, like, more authentic, liberated expression, right? Not being in any type of self-created prison through expectation. I think the new moon, because even in the way our systems and our things stay together, a lot of times it has to do with contracts that people made when they didn't necessarily really know what they wanted or communicate as clearly as they could have. So to be more authentic in our communication about what's important to us, what we value, and that health, like Gina brought in. I really like the intention for more like conscious health, meaning interrelation between our mind, body, soul, our parts working together for goals, or maybe not goals. Maybe goals make us crazy. That's the whole thing. We're always running after something, right? I'm not sure what we're running after.
Well, and I think too, in this country, if and I don't look at the United States plate often, but I've been in some rooms where it's been a big topic, and the United States just got in their Venus period for 52 days, and they have the 7 of Spades, which is, in my opinion, a powerful health card, on top of the fact that the United States is displacing a 6 of Spades for the year. So I feel like with this new Virgo moon, there may be a strong, more focus on health, and it kind of goes into it really does line up with school, like really, even though a lot of schools in part of the country have already started, but I think the rest of the country is going back to school starting next week, because most kids go back after Labor Day, and then you're kind of walking into flu season, because the weather will be changing. So that, I think you're going to see a strong emphasis on health here in the United States as well over these next 52 days, because I believe they just got into their Venus 52-day period.
Well, don't forget too, the 7 of Spades is work challenges.
Yeah.
And I could see also, I'm looking at articles about the schools being in crisis right now because of the fact that there are not enough teachers.
Yeah.
So many of the baby boomer teachers retired. Having been a teacher educator, there were not enough people, college age kids, that wanted to go into teaching because of the pay and because of the burnout and the stress of being a teacher and dealing with all the challenges in the classroom. So I know the guests that we had, Brady, a couple weeks ago in her school district, they are really challenged with substitute teachers. There's just not enough. So it's definitely a work challenge kind of environment too.
That kind of what we were talking about, I think, before we went live, with Pluto retrograding back into Capricorn, they're going to see a more, I think, strong emphasis on that, because the systems need to be rebuilt. You know what I mean? Maybe it is time to look at taking better care of the teachers, the classroom, and maybe that will be a focus as well, or that it'll crumble.
I agree.
I mean, it's so tricky because kids are on YouTube so much. They're on all these different things, and they can learn in different ways, right? So we have evolved in a way that we're learning differently, but there's some natural kind of maturing that happens in going somewhere every day, being with people, negotiating your social and emotional space, learning something. So how does it happen in a way that the children are allowed to grow authentic, the teachers don't get burnt out, and they also get to be in the social collective that they need, right? Because people do need that. I mean, school's in essence a little sense of community for kids, right?
Yeah.
So yeah,
I mean,
I'm curious what'll happen, but yeah.
I think alternative school, start trying to do things a little differently. And that's part of the answer. The traditional school, I think, is outdated. The whole mode is outdated.
Mm-hmm. It's just holding so much other things together, like everybody being able to go out to work, doing this, doing that. Like the kids are somewhere every day. Do you know what I mean? Like in the name of us being a giant community of a global family, the school kind of puts the kids somewhere so everyone else can be productive or earn money in the Monopoly game in some way.
Right.
Yeah. Interesting. So I guess this is going to be a nice unfolding. I'm curious how much will go. I mean, I'm sure these changes will take time. And I know this conversation about schools needing to change is not just starting, because it's been in the conversation even when my own older boys were younger. So I know that we're already starting to make these changes. And it's interesting that people don't want to be teachers. So then I wonder, like, is it mentors that we start to groom? Because it's the relationship that has so much to do with what changes the child. Yes, you might have teaching them the Pythagorean theory or the dates of certain wars, and they might remember, but it's the relationship with you and the way you interacted with them that's going to be what helps them know that they have value and that they see the way you move. It'll inspire them too, like they're watching us. Right? It's a mentoring more than it is anything else. And it's a shared mentoring. It goes both ways. And I think sometimes we get a little confused as parents and mentors or teachers, like we're in charge. The only thing you're in charge of is yourself. So be nice, right? And again, keep everything on the table. So everything on the table, nothing under the table. Thank you for coming to the card table. I hope this helped you look at odd cards with a different type of awareness on their nature. And if you are an odd card, I hope you're able to tell somebody you love that that's just the way you are and that there's nothing wrong with you. You're just 5 in or 7 in or 3 in. So anything else for anyone? We'll see you next week for the even cards. And please send questions. Check out the website. Let us know what you think. Leave comments. We're happy to be here. Thank you.
Have a great holiday weekend, everybody.
Yes, enjoy the weekend. See you guys next week.
Take care.
Take care.
Bye.